to the Mechanics Auditorium. For today, the drama on the Yellowstone Ranch has concluded. Thank you to these three interns who were able to gather us here together and feed us all their information. Micah Leith, an electronic media major out of college out of Bedford County, Pennsylvania, went south to WKRG in Mobile, Alabama, excuse me. While Alex Hughes stayed close to home and worked for the Grain Scene magazine. And lastly, Tyler Zeman, a Baldwin graduate and a sports announcing major, went north to the Washington Wild Things to operate as a video camera and video production intern. Together, we invited you here today to come listen as they share their wealth of knowledge. First up, Micah Leith.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to this internship presentation. The internship here is the culmination of your time in the comm department, and it means a lot to us. If you haven't guessed, our theme is Yellowstone, and kind of sticking with the cowboy theme a little bit, I want to give you a quote from another notable cowboy figure, John Wayne. He said that the definition of courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway. And that really was the theme of my internship. As Ethan said in the introduction, I'm from Bedford County, Pennsylvania. I interned in Mobile, Alabama. As you might guess, Mobile, Alabama and Bedford County really aren't that close together. In fact, it's about 1,030 miles away from my home. I didn't have anyone down in Mobile when I went. No friends, no family. As soon as I left the house, I was on my own. That was terrifying. It was my first time being that far away from home and being that alone. But in life, there are things you have to do, and you take courage to do it. Getting there was also a bit of a challenge. It took about 3 tanks of gas to get the entire way, and if you can remember, which I'm sure all of you do, last summer gas was not cheap. All told, it was about 18 hours of drive time for over 2 days, but I finally got there. And when I got there, I knew a lot of it was going to ride on the people that were at the station already. No friends, no family there, had to rely on the people. And I got very lucky. WKRG has a newsroom of about 60 people, and all of them were great. Everyone played a role in my experience in some small way, shape, or form. The three on the screen are probably the most notable. The first one's Gene Kirkconnell, the news director. He's the boss of the entire newsroom, and he was a really good coach, not just for me and the other intern, but for the entire staff. When I was there, WKRG was kind of undergoing a transformation, a change in style under his leadership. The person I spent the most time with was Megan Mackey. She was the traffic anchor and an MMJ. She's now at WBSH in Orlando. And I'll get back to that in a second. She taught me a lot about day-to-day reporting, what it's like being an MMJ, going out, shooting video yourself, doing interviews by yourself, writing tight copy, getting a script, tracking your package. But as I mentioned, she's not there anymore. When I was at the station, she was in the process of finding her next job. And I was there almost every single step of the way. And I didn't expect to have that experience when we did the internship. And I come away with it like knowing what it's like to apply for a job in a top 20 market, what it's like to interview, what it's like to negotiate, and how to work with an agent as well if I choose to do so. That was really meaningful. And the last person here, Arnell Hamilton, he was a photographer at the station, and the most skilled person with a camera I've ever got the chance to work with. The stuff that he does, I haven't seen anyone rise to that level. And I learned so much of the technical side of broadcast news from him. There were a lot of highlights of my internship. It was really a really important experience, very cohesive. Everything came together well. If I had to pick a couple, I'll just pick some of the most notable through on the screen. The first one, I met a lot of really influential and important people, more than I really expected. I met a congressman. I met multiple NFL players like Phillip Rivers, Dak Prescott. I met coaches in the SEC. I met the governor of the state, Kay Ivey. And while none of them remember me or could tell anybody who I was, I remember them. I remember those experiences. And as a young professional, in my first summer working, that was really meaningful. I also had to cover the overturn of Roe versus Wade. That was a once-in-a-lifetime story you get to cover. You don't get that once a year. You don't get that once a decade. A story of that magnitude comes maybe once every 50 years. And being able to be a part of the coverage on the ground, localizing it, finding the local perspective, covering protests, that was really special. And I'll remember that for the entirety of my journalistic career. And then last, I made lifelong friends and professional connections, especially in the internship cohort we had. We had about 12 people total in that internship group. And I'm very close friends with most of them to this day. We talk every day. And it's been nice to have them as all of us are looking for jobs at the same time. Having someone you can bounce ideas off of that understand what it's like, that really helped a lot. But with the good, there comes the bad. There were a lot of challenges. As I mentioned, I was away from home, very far away from home. And that was hard. It took a lot to overcome it. Another thing I had to really deal with was daily violence. Mobile is a violent city. One of the satellite towns, Pritchard, is literally the most dangerous city in America in terms of gun violence per capita. There's a shooting every single day. And that's tough. It can be hard to mentally prepare yourself each day when you know that there's going to be gun violence, gang violence, that you have to cover. And that violence even extended closer to the newsroom. There were threats against us. We had threats on Facebook against the entire news staff, individual reporters. The first conversation I had when I walked in the building the very first day was with the HR lady. And she said that basically where to go if there was an active shooter on the premises. I don't forget that, and it's a very real threat that we have to come to terms with. Another, maybe less terrifying challenge I'd overcome was the high cost of living. Again, like I said, gas was not cheap. Nothing was cheap last summer. And having to, kind of deal with that, especially when you roll that in with the fact that this internship was not paid. So I had to make a lot of sacrifices. I'm very fortunate to have the family that I have that were able to support me during it. And again, I'm very fortunate to be able to overcome that challenge. Then lastly, my work was intensely scrutinized and held to a high standard. WKRG is in the top 70 market right now, and everything I did was under a very close-up microscope. There were very high expectations when I came in, and I had to get good very quickly to be able to meet those expectations and do it in a professional way. As an intern, you have a lot of duties that are a lot more broad than maybe a full-time employee would have. And one thing that WKRG really sells their internship on are getting the chance to do everything in the newsroom. Every single job, you do it multiple times. And I can verify that that is in fact true. But the thing I spent the most time doing was working with video, whether it was shooting video, cutting video, whether it's for a package, whether it's for a VOSOP. Oftentimes I go out with an MMJ and act as a kind of photographer for them, help shoot their interviews while they ask the questions, shoot people while they got the interview set up. I also have to conduct a lot of interviews myself. When I go with a photographer, I hold the microphone, ask the questions, and there was a lot of challenges that came with that. Oftentimes, the assignment editor would just tell me, yeah, you're going with Arnell, and I didn't have any other information other than that, other than maybe the name of the person we're talking to. So I had to come up with a lot of questions on the fly, and that was tough, but I really became a better interviewer because of it. I also helped run live shots, whether it was actively monitoring the live view or checking the camera, or just running crowd control if we're in a crowded place while the photographer and reporter worked. And then lastly, I got a lot of studio and field practice. Everyone in the newsroom was very willing to let me, practice once they were done with their own things. So I got to do a lot of stand-ups in the field. I got to work in front of the green wall as a traffic anchor. I got to work in the studio as anchoring for the practice of it. And one of my goals going in was to come out with a full demo reel. And I achieved that, and again, it just comes back to the willingness of everyone in that newsroom to help. I also worked a lot on the digital producing side. I wrote multiple digital articles. I curated police press releases that got sent to us every single morning and found out what was newsworthy and what wasn't. And I also wrote full blogs for the evening newscast as well. So there was a lot more writing than I expected going into this. And another aspect that I really had to learn was the analytics side of it. On the digital producing side, it's more focused on taking the stories that we have and presenting them to as big of an audience as possible without sacrificing the journalistic ethics. So things that I learned in classes here, whether it's marketing or social media production with Matt Stalk's Com326, all those things, they really tie together in that. And I got the chance to see what it's like in the real world. And lastly, assorted duties, aka whatever else needed done. One thing that I had no idea about going into it, but quickly became maybe my forte, were perp walks. Perp walks are where the police are interrogating a suspect in the station, and then they're done, they got to the local jail. So what they'll do is they'll park the squad car about 40 yards away, and then walk them from the station to the cop car. What a lot of police stations like to do, especially in the South, is they'll have the media there to ask these people questions as they walk into the car. And Mobile did them a lot. And oftentimes they'd schedule them right in the middle of the day when there's no reporters there, so they have to send whoever, and often that's someone who's me. that's the first way I got to be on air. This one here, this gentleman here murdered a 14-year-old girl, and I got to be the, I guess, for lack of a better word, the idiot, walking with a microphone with the TV, asking him, why'd you do it? And the question, the one question that I asked him was, what do you have to say to the victim's family? And he just said, sorry, and he aired that like 3 days in a row. And then lastly, just an example of some of the miscellaneous stuff I got to do. I spent an afternoon at a food bank. As part of Nextstar's Day of Caring initiative, I got to go out with a couple of staff and give back to the community. I covered a lot of stories. I'll just run through them very quickly as I wrap up here. The biggest story was, of course, crime. It's a southern city. It happens every single day. The heat is Mobile, Alabama. There's a lot of it. And last summer was actually, it set a lot of records in the area. So learning how to take weather and make it news was a really valuable experience as well. And lastly, sports. It's the South. Sports is king. I covered everything from the Sun Belt Conference softball tournament to NFL players coming back for charity work. And all in all, I really got a good sense of what it's like to cover news in a place different from where I'm from. And that was really special. That was my internship. It was really useful. Are there any questions now? Yes.
You said you got to work every position in the newsroom. What would you want to see brought here to WU from your experience? You mentioned you were going out and getting reporting and interviews and stuff. Do you think we should be doing more of that? What do you think would be beneficial for your guys stepping up into your role next year?
So our live newscast, we do everything manually, and no newsroom in the country does it manually. It's all coded in. So I would really like to see, this is not a tomorrow thing. This is probably a 5-year project where we switch our systems and allow us to code stuff and automate a lot of the switcher board and things like that. Again, there's a hefty price tag that comes with it, but I think that's the next logical step in bringing on quality of education up to current standards. Any other questions? Yes?
Did you have any guidelines for the questions that you could ask the perp?
No.
No.
Okay, so kind of, it goes back to common law. We were not allowed to say, why did you do it? You cannot say that specific string of words. What you could say was, why did police say you did it? Because then you're not officially accusing them, you're asking them why others are accusing them. But it's the same question. Yes?
You mentioned how different the South was just overall in general. Did you notice anything different in the news tactics in the South compared to up here in Pittsburgh or in West Virginia?
Less the tactics and more the news itself. You're in the South. There's far more crime in the cities there. And it dominates the news industry. Can do one more.
What do you think was the biggest difference working down there than working in any other environment up here?
I would say that the subject of the news was a big one. Again, a lot of crime. But also just the way people are, I would say. It's not too different from where I'm from in rural Bedford County, but you get to Pittsburgh, the people are really different. It's a different culture. Again, the SEC is king. Saturday afternoon football is king. Things like that. So the mindset was definitely different. Thank you all for coming. Up next, Tyler Zeman, a video production in Washington.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Micah. As he mentioned, I'm Tyler Zeman, and I was able to do my internship last summer as a video production intern at the Washington Wild Pigs. Now, if you would have told me coming into that summer or coming in as a freshman, I would have been working as an intern for a baseball team, I probably would have told you you were crazy. But some of the experiences that I got throughout this past summer were amazing and things that I wouldn't change. Before we get into all that, though, I want to start with this quote. I found it was by Yogi Berra. Found it after one of the long days at the ballpark. I had conveniently just gone home and I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw this. He said, baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical. And while I may not have felt the physical side of baseball, I would like to think that I felt the mental side of it. Walking into the ballpark every day, you never knew what you were going to get. Sometimes the games would be straightforward. Sometimes the games would take forever. The pace of it would be slow and you would have other delays like weather and such things. And obviously working as a video production intern, you have to worry about the technology. And a lot of the time the technology wasn't allowing us to do the things that we wanted to do because it wouldn't be working properly and things along that line. But you never knew what the day was going to bring. So it was hard to lock in for 9 innings on some nights throughout the summer. But these two guys made it fun. Kyle Dawson came down last spring, and he kind of opened my eyes to what the Wild Things could offer as a video production intern. And I kind of bought in, and I asked him I told him I was interested, and he put me in touch with Zeman, who was the guy that oversaw my internship. He did the interview process and the one that I would go to if I had any questions regarding, scheduling or camera work, or just any other things just in general. But these two guys made it real fun working with them. They're really good at what they do, and being able to pick up on the little things and seeing them in action helped me learn a lot. Someone that I do want to mention that isn't on the screen though right now, Jeremiah Miller. He played a huge role in my experience at the Washington Wild Things. He was the director over the course of the summer, and one of the guys that helped me learn how to produce baseball and direct baseball. So on one of the weekends he wasn't there, I was able to step in and be able to be the director for the series. So it was kind of expanded my experience, and he played a big role in that. So my goals going in, I just wanted to kind of dive in as much as I could. I wanted to gain as much experience, not only operating a camera, but hopefully moving out of that realm and into the press box, working as a director and producer. I wanted to make new connections. With a lot of Waitsburg guys going down there, we mainly knew a lot of people, but I did meet a lot of guys from different parts of the region that also were nice to meet and kind of stay in contact with. And I wanted to get outside of my comfort zone, and what I mean by that is I wanted to really work outside of the, just operating a camera night in and night out. I wanted to do pretty much whatever there was to offer, and it kind of goes along with the number 4 bullet point is I wanted to understand what it meant to work in a small market, not just for baseball, but what it was like to work just in sports in general. So some of my duties and responsibilities, first and foremost, I was a live production camera operator. This was the typical, just kind of what we do at the Lynchburg University Sports Network. I was there to help work the camera for the live stream. I also had some work as a roaming camera operator. We did some things with in-game entertainment, and then creating video content for socials were the big major points in my internship. Breaking those out a little bit more, for the live production camera operator, we were there to pretty much shoot the game. It was like your typical Waynesburg Sports Network production. We were getting shots of the pitcher, the batters, the base runners, the ball in play, the bullpen, pretty much just being there to kind of tell the story and to show the action to the audience of what was going on that day. As a roaming camera operator, I only got to do this twice. It was for the tailgate and the Kids Fest that they had there. The day, not before, but during the day leading up to the Celebrity All-Star Game. So we were there to kind of just find creative shots. We were there to really show what the Wild Things were all about, the community, and what the fan base is, and what kind of the Washington Wild Things have to offer in the space of professional baseball. For the in-game entertainment side of things, as soon as they would go to break in the live stream, we were used to pretty much record the action in the stadium. That was whether there was mini games that were going on along the foul line, the Dean Dental brush the bases where the kid would come out with a giant toothbrush and run around the bases and brush them. We would get a video of that, and they would put it on the big video screen out in right field. Even people dancing around the stadium for the Cotton Eye Joe or the 7th inning stretch. So they could all put that on the video board to give the fans as close to an experience that they would get if they went to a professional ballpark, like if they were to go to a Pirates game, and so on and so forth. And then creating video content for socials, while I didn't have to do much for this, they pretty much used our highlights. So this was crucial for them and kind of helping them expand their fan base. A lot of the time, people couldn't make it to every game. The funny thing with the Wild Things is it's a small fan base, but they're very dedicated. So for people that couldn't show up to every game or couldn't be there for most of the time, they were able to find highlights of the game on Twitter. And this was crucial, again, to not only keep people allowing them to be able to follow the game, to follow the team, but to also maybe draw in more viewership from other people that may have just found out about the Washington Wild Things or live in the area and have been to a few games but didn't really follow them closely. And then obviously we would get different footage from the stadium. This kind of went with the in-game entertainment part, but I do remember one night there was a kid, he was dancing on one of the concourses, and we got him, one of the first base cameras got him, and they put him on the video board, and then they also put him on social media. So again, it kind of just goes into showing what the Wild Things had to offer to fans in the area. Some other roles that I played, As the director, I would be taking different camera shots. I would be directing the camera operators and communicating with the announcers. So if I had a shot of someone warming up in the bullpen, I could get Kyle or get Caleb, and they would then go on and talk about the guy warming up in the bullpen, and so on and so forth. As the producer, I worked on this computer that was updating like the player graphics before the starting pitcher graphics with their stats, their win-loss record on the season, ERA, so on and so forth. I also would update kind of the location graphic with the team, the date, all that kind of stuff. And then controlling the scorebook, updating the count, the pitch count every pitch, putting on the player stats for the game or their stats for the season on the scorebook, controlling the runs and where the base runners were on or where they were at on the field. And then I ran the hype video and the ads that they did during the pregame show. So with that, I cued the announcers as well, helping them get in and out of each break leading up to team production. Some challenges, I put the unknown on here because you didn't really know what you were going to get that day walking into the ballpark. From, like I said, the game, you never know what you were going to get. It could be straightforward, you could be in and out, or you could have weather delays, or the game is off for an hour and a half and you don't finish until like midnight, 12:30. You never knew what the day was going to bring. With it being a small ball club and them not having too many people on paid staff, they relied on the interns a lot. So you could be coming into the stadium as a camera operator for that day, but by first pitch you could be the producer, up in the press box. So you didn't really have a chance to kind of mentally prepare yourself for what the day was going to bring. And then the technology, working with the technology, it could be difficult at times, and it was something that kind of hindered us in some scenarios in being able to do what we wanted to. Along with that though, it was an unpaid internship, so I had to find a balance between working a paid job and the internship, which led to some long days going from a day job to the ballpark. This kind of goes back to the mental challenge. It was hard to lock in for 9 innings after having such a busy day and being able to produce or put out the best content that you could for the fans. And then working as a team, a lot of us Waynesburg guys went down there, so we all knew each other very well, but we kind of knew each other too well, I guess you could say. You know how to make someone tick, and if somebody wasn't in the mood that day, it could lead to some challenges. Being able, because we're always constantly communicating with Jeremiah in our ear as the director. He could get annoying at times, so it was tough to, again, lock in, but be able to work with each other. At the end of the day, we're there to do a job, and we're there to be professionals, so that's what we had to do. So my highlights, being able to produce the last playoff game, that was definitely a highlight. Going into it as a video camera operator, being able to end the season in the press box was a pretty good note to end on. Working the All-Star game, there was only a select few people that got the chance to be picked to work the All-Star game, so being one of those people to work a camera for that and to show what the Wild Things had to offer and show your skills was also a big highlight of that. And then directing and producing, I didn't think I would get the opportunity to do a lot of that, and it turns out I did. And then making the new connections along the way were all things that I would say were the highlights of my summer. So with that, does anyone have any questions? Darian?
Working both as a camera operator, but as well as directing the games at the Wild Things. I mean, you've done that work for Houston as well. Do you think that we have the capabilities to be able to do a baseball or softball game in the future?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a lot like what we do here with the Sports Network. We have a lot of creative freedom to be able to try out new things and be able to tell the story that is the game of baseball. I will say the Sports Network kind of prepared me a lot for the opportunities that I had at the Wild Things. So those things really just went in hand in hand. It's not that we're not professionals here at Waynesburg, but being able to work in a professional setting was also something that was very cool. Carter?
How would you say your internship experience would have been different if there wasn't so many familiar faces there?
I'm not sure, because some of the guys that were there that weren't from Waynesburg, they were awesome to work with, and they all honestly were kind of just like us guys who are from Waynesburg, so it was really easy to fit in and connect with people. I will say I may not have had all the opportunities I would have gotten if I didn't have, if Jeremiah wasn't there, and others, but I would say the internship I still think would have went pretty well, but I may not have gotten as much experience.
You did a lot of specific things. What did you like the most, and is there anything you think you might want to specialize on going into senior year or learn more about?
I like the writing and producing aspect of it. Going into that internship, I was kind of looking at the behind the scenes portion of it, and being able to do that stuff over the summer kind of just backed my liking for being behind the cameras and producing and directing live sports. So I would say, I came in and wanted to be a sports announcer, but being able to see what I can do in the truck and the opportunities you have on the producing and directing side of things was pretty nice to see as well. So with that, up next we have Alex Hughes. He was a writer for the Green Sea magazine.
Alright, thank you, Tyler. Thank everyone for coming out here today. So for my internship, I interned at the Green Sea magazine, and let me just start off by telling you guys a little story about how it all came about for my internship. So it didn't start off as a lot of other people's internships have. I originally, take you back to right before summer vacation last year, I'd applied to do an internship at a online sports writing site that's based out of Cincinnati, but I applied and they sent me in and they accepted me, and so I thought I had it all set for the summer and ready to go. And then school ends and I don't hear anything from them after a while, and I emailed them out myself and I still don't hear anything back from them. So I had to start over pretty much from scratch. Going into senior year, I had to find an internship, so that led me to doing Green Sea magazine over the winter break of this year. So the Green Sea magazine, in case you're unfamiliar, founded in 2002. It's a local magazine here in Greene County that is all Greene County news. And another interesting thing about it is it's all positive news and stories. You're not going to find any kind of negative or sad stories in this. It's supposed to be a cheery magazine to just share good stories with the people of Greene County about Greene County. Another thing, it's 100% locally produced. Everything you see in the magazine, from the stories, the art, or the ads, and all of that, the photos, are all from the Greene County area. And it goes out to 25,000 homes and 500 businesses, which for a magazine that's based in, again, the small area of Greene County, to go out to that many homes and businesses is honestly kind of impressive to think about, just because 25,000 is a lot of different homes. So Direct Results is the parent company of the Green Sea magazine. It's an advertising, marketing, and branding company that's also, again, located here in Greene County. Its headquarters set up in Waynesburg, and this is like the Green Sea. It's a lot bigger than you would expect. It works with over 3,000 clients worldwide. They work with people with like the Pittsburgh Penguins and New York Knicks, and it's not just stateside. They work with people overseas in different continents as well. So again, like the Green Sea, it gets out a lot farther than you would possibly expect it to. Now these are the main bosses that I worked with during my time at the Green Sea. Over on the far left is Pam Marie. So she is the owner and CEO of Direct Results, and while I wasn't necessarily working with her all the time, she of course had to approve it, and again approve everything that I was going to do with the Green Sea and everything else, as she again is the owner. And if the last name Marisa sounds familiar to you, that is because she's actually married to the grandson of Rudy Marisa, who of course is the namesake of the field house here at Waynesburg University. And like I mentioned, with them having 3,000 different partners at Direct Results, Waynesburg University is one of their partners, and Direct Results actually did the photography on the Rudy Marisa Fieldhouse that just got put up a few years ago. In the middle is Danielle Nyland. She is the lead editor for the Green Sea magazine. So during the beginning of my internship, she's the one I reported to the most. She's the one who helped me coming up with story ideas, giving me ideas, or just giving me stories that she wanted me to do, and also helping me edit them whenever I got them done, and going through that process as well. And then over here on the far right is Eric Palfrey. He is the main guy for the digital team at the Green Sea, and I really started working with him about a little over halfway through the internship. They approached me and they offered me the chance to work with the digital team as well as writing for the Green Sea, as they thought with what I do here at Waynesburg, that'd be a perfect fit to get me more experience there during my internship. So duties and responsibilities. The main thing that really drew me into this was covering of local sports and writing up the stories for them. Again, my previous internship that I wanted to do was for a site writing about sports, and as a sports announcing major, that's something I'm very passionate about, and that's what I mainly wanted to do. But that's not all I got to do. I also got to do a lot of brainstorming and writing for feature stories as well, and it's a lot different than what I normally do, and that's something I don't have that much experience with from Waynesburg, but I thought it was something that was a lot of fun and very different. Also, again, working with the digital team, like I said, they approached me about doing it about halfway through the internship, and again, taking the opportunity that they were giving to me to soak up even more knowledge and get even more from this internship was something that I wasn't going to pass up on. And like any other intern, pretty much any other task that they would throw my way, I would take on and accept any other roles and responsibilities they wanted me to do. So diving into each of these a little bit more, I want to start with local sports. So I went to a lot of different events around Greene County over winter break. Again, because it was winter, there was a lot of basketball going on, so that was mainly what I did. And most of the time, I did a lot with Waynesburg University and West Greene, and I felt like this worked really to my strengths because, yeah, I'm obviously a student here at Waynesburg University, so covering those basketball games and events was really something that I enjoyed and have familiarity with. And the same thing with West Greene. I'm an alumni from there, so being able to go back there and see the familiar faces and people and just places was something that I really enjoyed and really went to my strengths with. Again, basketball, a sport that I'm very familiar with. I've announced it here and I played it back in high school, so I really thought that doing the local sports was something that I was really had a lot of fun with and was really good at. Next up, feature stories. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's something different that I hadn't really done up to the point of the internship, but it was honestly something that I've really had a lot of enjoyment doing when it came up to brainstorming and writing the stories that I did. The one I have up on the screen was the first one I got to do. It was in memory of Buzz Walters, who, if you don't know, he was a coach at West Greene High School for wrestling, and he passed away in December. But he was a guy who was one of those hometown famous kind of guys, you would say. A lot of people knew him and really liked him a lot, and you just knew him just from hearing his name and all the stories you'd hear from other people. So that was one of my favorite ones I got to do. As again, I've never wrote it in memory of someone before, so doing that was a cool experience. And then on that note, I just have a couple of responses I got to the Buzz Walters article about telling me how about the article and liking it. And it really just validates what you're doing and makes it all feel worth it, that people are seeing your work that you put out and enjoying it after you put in all the hours and hours of effort to put out the best possible content that you can, and seeing again people enjoy it and like it really makes it all worth it in the end. Next up is my work with the digital team. I got to do it about, again, halfway through the internship is when I started on working with the digital team. And they had me do a lot of different things, working with writing radio spots, blog posts, social media posts, and photography. The pictures here are ones that I took down at the Fox Ford down in Waynesburg, just a little bit from here. And they just sent me out. They said, get some pictures of a couple cars and then come back and write up some social media posts for them. So that's exactly what I did. And it was something that, again, I wasn't expecting to have this in my internship. When I joined on, it was just supposed to be writing. So having the opportunity to do that, I thought it was something that was really rewarding and also really fun at the same time. Social media, again, something that's really going forth in our world today and really important. So being able to do something like that is a great experience and one that, again, I wasn't expected to have in the first place. Lastly, I just want to talk about how this internship changed me. And again, when it came to writing, I was someone who always kind of liked writing, but at the same time, whenever it came to like assignments here at school, it always felt like it was something I had to do. So that's kind of what always struck me down and away from possibly pursuing a career in it. But having this experience and being able to write what I want to write and coming up with my own ideas instead of just being told, you're going to write this and it has to be due at this time and it has to be this long. This was, again, it was something cool that really brought me more forward in the way of thinking about a possible career in writing, whether it be sports or even feature stories. I really enjoyed that as well. So it's really helped me possibly pave out a way for my future in my career. And I'm really thankful for this internship, even though it all got off to a pretty rocky start. It all worked out in the end as it's helped me a lot. Thank you. Any questions? Will?
Yeah, so since this magazine focuses on positive and happy stories, do you think if you got a job where it focused on writing more about like sad stories, would you find it more difficult to do that?
I feel like it would be a little more difficult to do it because, again, it's not something that I have any experience in really doing, but I didn't really expect to do some of the stuff I did here. So it's something that, well, I think it would be different. It would be something that I'd be willing to embrace and take on in the future. JR.
So, 2 questions. One, are you the first Waynesburg student that's ever worked with Green Scene?
As far as my knowledge goes, yes.
Okay, awesome. And would you encourage any of your other classmates to investigate them and try interning with them?
Yeah, I definitely would recommend it. If you're someone who likes writing articles, like sports or features, like I said, it really is a fun time. They work with you really well there and lead you on the way that they want you to go. And they're really helpful with you all the way there. Even if you want to go like the digital route, they can help you there. You can do that as well. So I would definitely recommend it if someone is looking for something along those lines. All right. Thank you all for coming.
That'll conclude our presentations today. We want to thank you guys all for coming out to the Yellowstone Ranch. Make sure to stay tuned for next week. It's Aaron Lang, Wes Champlin, Nate Rella, and Colin Rhodes presenting